Good morning everybody and welcome back to the channel. Just a few days left till the end of the regular season, and I thought today I would start talking about my season conclusions. Not about the final standings and the playoff picture, but about trophies. And I'm doing this now the third year in a row to hand out a Hart Trophy, not only for the league, but for every team. Who is the most valuable player for each of the 32 NHL teams? I will talk about that now. I have the list right in front of me, so let's go through it. 32 teams, 32 Hart Trophies. So, ready? Okay, here we go. I'm going through this in division-wise from west to east this time, and each division is in a random order. I just wrote down the teams in any order, so let's just get through it. Let's start in the Pacific, the Vancouver Canucks. They didn't have a very good season, fired the coach in the middle. Two players standing out. The one is Quinn Hughes, who's setting a new record for points by a defenseman of the Canucks. But their MVP, I think, is Elias Pettersson, who has, I think, 1 game or 2 games left to reach the 100-point mark. I really hope he does that. Elias Pettersson, the MVP for the Vancouver Canucks. Next up on the list, the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, there's only one name. There's Connor McDavid, reaching 150 points for the first time in 27 years. This hasn't been in the NHL for 27 years that a player reaches 150 points. He will most likely win the Hart. He will definitely win the Art Ross. He will win the Hart. He will win the Lindsay. Of course, he's the Oilers MVP. But Leon Draisaitl, no slouch either. Second best point scorer in the NHL. These two guys are fantastic, and if they would be on different teams, I think they would compete for the Hart Trophy every year. Next up, Calgary Flames, who just as on the day of recording, in the last night were eliminated from the playoffs with a shootout loss against Nashville. They had a pretty disappointing season. Everybody expected Jonathan Huberdeau and Nazem Kadri and Jacob Markstrom on this list. I have neither of them. I have Elias Lindholm, Rasmus Andersson, who is also not bad, but the MVP this year for me is Tyler Toffoli. And this says a lot about the Calgary Flames and their season. Next up, Vegas. Pretty easy call this time. In the early season, it looked like Logan Thompson could take the spot, but it's Jack Eichel, yeah. Pietrangelo, no bad season either, and Shea Theodore as well, but Jack Eichel is their MVP this year. Seattle, 2 names on the board. The one is Jared McCann, who is again setting a new franchise record for goals scored. I think he reached 50 this night. But I think their MVP is Vince Dunn from the blue line, who has, of course, a point scoring record for defensemen for the Seattle Kraken, personal records, and absolutely a great season. He will not make it into the Norris conversation, but Vince Dunn was fantastic this year. San Jose. 1 name on the board, and that's the only one. Yeah, it's Erik Karlsson. 100 points by a defenseman. You haven't seen that in quite a while as well. He is the only name on this list, and yeah, that's absolutely right. Couture and Hurdle didn't have very good years. The only one was Erik Karlsson. A career year which was wasted by the bad team. Next up, the Anaheim Ducks. Also, not a very good season. I expected them way better than they were. The MVP is still Trevor Zegras. He's the leading point getter. Troy Terry and Cam Fowler. I almost thought about giving this to Cam Fowler, but in the end, I decided Zegras. Spectacular play. He is the future. Let's see what happens next year if they get Bedard or maybe not. And finally, in the Pacific, the LA Kings. Drew Doughty had a good year. Adrian Kempe had a very good year. Kevin Fiala fit in very, very good with the Kings. But I think the MVP is still Andrzej Kopitar, the man from Slovenia. So I almost said Slovakia, I didn't do it. Slovenia, of course. Their captain, their leader, their best player. Okay, let's continue with the Central Division. Let's start off with the Arizona Coyotes. Their rookie, Machelli, had a fantastic season. He will be in the Calder conversation. Nick Schmaltz, very good season as well. But the MVP is, of course, Clayton Keller, their best player, their future captain. He is right now the franchise. Let's see if he gets company by a very good player to be drafted in June. As long as this doesn't happen, Clayton Keller is the man in Arizona. Nashville. And this is the first time a goaltender comes into play, because I would give the Nashville MVP to Jussi Saros, their goaltender. He had, once again yesterday against Calgary, a fantastic game. He made the decisive saves at the shootout to eliminate Calgary from playoffs and keep Nashville in the conversation. Let's see if they make it or not. Roman Josi, not bad a season either, but I think Saros is Nashville's MVP this year. Colorado Avalanche. Yeah, 3 names on the board. One is Cale Makar, who has a very good season. Right now, I think he's down to injury. Didn't play yesterday. Let's see what happens in the last 2 games before the playoffs. Mikko Rantanen hit 50 goals as the 3rd Finnish-born player behind Jari Kurri and Timo Selänne. I think the MVP again is Nathan MacKinnon. His first 100-point season, he did a fantastic job. He didn't play every game. He could be in the 120 range, so around where Draisaitl is. He is not, but yeah, he missed some games. But still, Nathan MacKinnon, the MVP of the Colorado Avalanche. St. Louis. Yeah, not a good season for the Blues either. Bad season definitely for Jordan Binnington, so he's not in this conversation. Who is Pavel Buchnevich, who fit in pretty good. Jordan Kyrou, no slouch either, but I think the MVP this year is Robert Thomas on a team that is altogether, I think, pretty disappointed and happy the season is over. Dallas, and this is the first time, and I think, yeah, the only time I have 4 names here. Miro Heiskanen, very good season, the man on the blue line for Dallas. Joe Pavelski, fantastic season, just hit 1,000 points yesterday. Congratulations, Joe, sorry. Jake Ottinger, their goaltender, also had a very good season, living up to the contract. Not as brilliant as in last year's playoffs, but he is very, very good and will be that for a long time. But yeah, of course, the MVP has to be Jason Robertson, hitting 100 points. First Dallas player for quite a while doing so. Let's see if he sets a team record. Maybe not a franchise record, but a team record, that's possible. Next, the Winnipeg Jets, still in the fight for playoff spots. Now they have it in their own hands. They have 2 games left. They need 2 points, and they're in. Let's see if they do it. If they do it, they can thank to a great season from Josh Morrissey, especially. Mark Scheifele was not that sovereign. He didn't have that many assists, but a lot of goals. Not bad either. But their MVP, I think, is clearly Connor Hellebuck, the goaltender. What would the Jets be without Hellebuck? He stole so many games, has so many wins. Not the best save percentage, but making so many saves. Hellebuck is the Jets MVP. Minnesota, also 3 names on the board. One is another goaltender, Gustafsson, who came over from Ottawa. Pretty sad they let him go. He is having a great season, one of the best save percentages in the NHL right now. He could be in the Vezina conversation. Matt Boldy living up when their MVP was not there. Fantastic job by the youngster, but I think the MVP is again Kirill Kaprizov. When he was out, the offense of the Wild was not that good, but they still won the games. But with him being back, their offense should be back. And if they can keep up their defensive game, they really can do something in the playoffs. Kirill Kaprizov is the MVP. And finally, Chicago. It was very hard to find MVPs for this team. I decided not to give it to Seth Jones, I decided to give it to Tyler Reddish, the young man who came over from Tampa in the Brendan Hale trade. He has a lot of potential, a lot of offensive upside. Let's see what the Blackhawks do, if they get Bedard or not, or Fantilli, we will see. The Blackhawks in the midst of a rebuild, and I think Tyler Reddish could be a vital part when they come out of the rebuild. Up next in the East, let's go to the Met first, the Metropolitan Division, starting off with the New York Rangers. Had a very good season from Mika Zibanejad, a very good season from Artemi Panarin. He didn't reach his points total from last year, but he is close. But I think the MVP this year is Adam Fox. Very consistent, but not spectacular, but good, solid in all parts of the game. I think Adam Fox had a fantastic season. I would give him the Rangers MVP. The Islanders, their leading scorer is Brock Nelson, having a fantastic season. Now playing Bo Horvat, not bad either, but I think the MVP of the Islanders is also their goaltender, Ilya Sorokin. Fantastic job. He will definitely be in the Vezina conversation in the top 3 because he saved their butts so often and so consistent. Let's see if they make it to the playoffs. They lost against Washington yesterday. Let's see how it hurts them. If they make it to the playoffs, they will be dangerous, mainly because of Ilya Sorokin. New Jersey Devils. Oh, I lied to you. This is the next team just that has 4 names on the board. One is Jesper Bratt. What can I say about him? Fantastic offensive player. A lot of goals, a lot of assists. Nico Hischier, their captain, leader on the ice, and their best defensive forward. One of the best defensive forwards in the game. He could be in the Selke conversation. And I think he can even win it. Dougie Hamilton, their leader on the blue line. I think he could be in the Norris conversation. But I think their MVP is, Jack Hughes. Let's see if he hits 100 points. He has 2 games left to get, I think it's 4 or 5 points. And he has been injured for some time, so he didn't play the full season. He will hit 100 if he stays healthy next year. Jack Hughes, the Devils MVP. Up next, Columbus. And I really thought about putting Zach Werenski there because he only played, 15 games? So he was not the reason the Blue Jackets had such a bad season. I decided not to do so, but to give it to Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Hockey, who was the best player on the Blue Jackets, but he had a disappointing season, as all the Blue Jackets had. Let's see what happens if they get Bedard or Fatilli, or they need help anyway. Washington, also as well, only 1 name on the board, and this is, of course, Alex Ovechkin, the Great 8, who passed Gordie Howe and is in the hunt for Wayne Gretzky. I think he has about 70 goals left to do so, to get him. But his goal scoring rate dropped significantly when the Capitals were eliminated from the playoffs. Let's see if he plays long enough to catch Gretzky. I think he can. I think he should do so. Remains to be seen. But anyway, Ovechkin, the Capitals MVP. Let's go to their rivals, to Pittsburgh. Had great seasons from Yevgeny Malkin and from Jake Gunsel. But the MVP is the guy that reached 1,500 career points, I think 2 days ago, Sidney Crosby. Still very good offensively, brilliant defensively, great leader on the ice. Crosby is still the guy in Pittsburgh. Philadelphia. It was also pretty hard to find someone. In the end, I decided to give it to Travis Konechny, who had a very good start of the season when Philly really was competitive. Not maybe playoff level, but close. But they dropped off when Konechny went down to injury. Kevin Hayes, the second name on the board, he stepped up a little. But the Flyers, they will go into a rebuild. Let's see if they get a good draft pick and what happens in Philly. Will be very interesting. Also how the jerseys will look like next year. And finally, of the Metro, the Carolina Hurricanes. The MVP the last years always has been Sebastian Aho. He had a good season as well, as had Brent Burns, who came over from the San Jose Sharks to replace D'Angelo on the blue line. He did so very good. He is, I think, their 3rd best points getter this year. Fit in pretty good. He has the experience and he has the talent. But I think the MVP this year is their leading point getter, which is Marty Necas. Young guy, still on the rise. He will get better and Carolina fans will have a lot of fun with their 2022-2023 MVP, Marty Necas. So, and finally, it's the Atlantic. Let's start off with the Florida Panthers, where everybody, of course, expected Alexander Barkov to still be their MVP, but he was not. It was the new guy, Matthew Tkachuk, who came over from Calgary, who definitely missed him. He just continued where he left off in Calgary, going well over 100 points with the Florida Panthers, being their best player, being their leader, not only aggressive, but also point getting and all the way on the ice. Tampa Bay. Good seasons from Steven Stamkos, not bad. Braden Point, who has 2 games to get 1 more goal to reach 50 goals. Lost in the shuffle, but Braden Point is about to get 50 goals. But I think the MVP is Nikita Kucherov, who is the leading point getter, well over 100 points as well again this year. Leading setup man, one of the best assist givers in the NHL. Let's see what they do in the playoffs. When they face these guys, I will give you a prediction of the playoffs as soon as every matchup is set. Detroit. Only one name on the board. That's their captain, Dylan Larkin, their leading point getter, absolute leader on the ice. Signed a new contract not that long ago. Will stay in Detroit for 8 more years. He is the leader of a young team coming up. They could be a good call for the playoffs next year, but we'll see what happens in the offseason. Anyway, Dylan Larkin is their MVP. Buffalo. Oh, again 4 names on the board. I'm sorry. Because Jeff Skinner finally almost played up to his contract, to the $9 million he's getting every year. Fantastic season for Skinner. Finally, he found a home together with Alex Tuch, one of my favorite players in the whole NHL, who should be the next Sabres captain. He is there with all of his heart, and you can see that, you can feel that on the ice. Rasmus Dahlin, fantastic season as well. Started it off, I think, with 5 goals in 5 games or 6 goals in 6 games. Fantastic leading point getter on the blue line. Very good season. But their MVP is, TNT, Tage Thompson, who was stopped by injury from getting 100 points. I think he is at 92 or 94 now and has 3 games left. Outside chance of getting the 100. I don't think he will get it. But Tage Thompson is the first line center the Buffalo Sabres were looking for quite a while. He is the new guy, the best player. Boston. I have David Krejci on the board because when he was not there last year, the Bruins were a wildcard team, had good home games in the playoffs. I was there to see 2 of them. Won all 3 home games but lost the series to Carolina. Now David Krejci is back and the Bruins are again winning the President's Trophy. Linus Ullmark, their goaltender, he will win the Vezina Trophy. I'm pretty sure about that. Best save percentage, best goals against average, most wins. The Boston defense is good, but so is Ullmark. But I still think their MVP is David Pastrnak, who hit 60 goals in their last game when he scored, I think, 3. Has a lot of assists, has 100 points. He will most likely not get the Rocket Richard because, there's this guy McDavid. I think you heard about him. And when he decided this year, okay, I'm going to get some goals. The fantastic season by Pastrnak is, of course, there, but overshadowed by Connor McDavid. But I think David Pastrnak, MVP for the Boston Bruins. The Ottawa Senators. I expected them in the playoffs this year. They didn't make it. Pretty sad because they're my favorite team. Let's see what happens next year when all the young guys will even get better, like Thomas Chabot, who is still one of the highest minutes played per game. Brady Tkachuk, their captain and their leader, is doing a very good job. And I think the MVP this year is Tim Stützle, the guy from Mannheim, Germany, who is their leading goal scorer and leading points getter. Let's see what happens next year when Josh Norris comes back and all the other guys are a year older and maybe a little bit better. I think the Senators are a good call for the playoffs next year. Let's see what happens. Montreal, 1 name only on the board after Cole Caulfield get injured and missed, I think, 3 or 4 months of the season. Up to this point, he was pretty good. But now there's only 1 name on the board, and that's Nick Suzuki, their captain, their leader. Montreal could have a quick turnaround. Let's see what happens, who they get in the draft, and how the young guys develop. But Nick Suzuki has to step up even further to give the Habs a chance for the playoffs next year. And finally, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Morgan Rielly on the blue line had a very good season. Very silent and unnoticed in many places except Toronto. Austin Matthews was also good. Not as good as the 60 goals he had last year. And I would not give Matthews the Leafs MVP. I would give it to Mitch Marner. His most efficient setup man who also set up goals for all the other guys, for Bunting, for Tavares, for whoever is playing with him. In parts he also played defense. Also a very hot candidate for the Selke Trophy, Mitch Marner, the MVP of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Alright, that's it for this one. 32 teams, 32 Hart Trophies. Let me know in the comment section below who is your favorite team and who would you give the Hart Trophy for your favorite team. Thank you very much for watching again, and see you soon with more talks about the 2022-2023 season. See you then. Have a good time. Goodbye.